Hello and welcome to Kessel Fun, the official podcast of the Star Wars Speculation subreddit. I'm your host Sam, and I'm joined here today with three of my fellow co-hosts. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Liz.
Fuel the fire here.
Hi, I'm Leia.
And we're going to start off today's episode talking about some of the news that's happened in Star Wars this past week or two. First things first, I really wanted to get into the Last Jedi Blu-ray release and talk about some of the extra features that was included with that. So obviously, including the original film, it came with a documentary called The Director and the Jedi, which was a full-length documentary on the making of The Last Jedi, and it follows kind of Ryan's journey through making this film. It really shows a lot of the insight and the creative ideas that he had and the struggles he actually went through to create this film. We also had a extra called The Balance of the Force, which explores the lore behind the Force, and Rian Johnson kind of explains, why he chose to feature it that way. It also featured 14 deleted scenes, which we talked about in great detail in the first episode of Kessel Fun. So if you want to hear our thoughts about that, then load that up. In addition to that, we also had the director's commentary, and that was Rian Johnson, just going through the film and saying his thoughts and added a little bit of context to specific scenes. And then we have 3 scene breakdowns. So Liz, do you want to just tell us about some of them?
Yeah, so Lighting the Spark, Creating the Space Battles were basically a couple of clips of how they literally made the space battles behind the scenes, rendering all that stuff. Snoke and Mirrors is also behind the scenes on how they created Snoke and ILM and other companies. The tedious work it took to make him every last detail was accounted for, and it really shows. Showdown on Krayt was how they got the salt on Krayt. When they shot, it would turn red underneath. Basically, it ended up being paper, which I thought was pretty cool, and it took them like a couple of weeks or months to figure out how to get that effect done. But I really love that it is a practical effect and not a CGI effect.
Okay. Lastly, we have the Andy Serkis live. We have 2 scenes of Andy Serkis, and it's just kind of showing the exact scenes from The Last Jedi, but without the Snoke CGI. And it's actually really cool to see him actually as an actor, I suppose, on these sets and show what actually goes into the motion capture performance. So highly recommend checking all these things out. They were great. Get the Blu-ray, watch them, and post your thoughts in the comments. Fuel, did you want to talk about the Solo Denny's commercial?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys caught that new Denny's commercial. I'm not sure if that's a sentence I ever imagined I'd be saying, but there was a new Denny's commercial that dropped recently with ties into the Solo film, and it comes with the announcement of some Topps cards that are available and some other cups there. Product stuff aside, we got some meaty looks at the cantina, or hopefully right from the film, I'm guessing. Don't think they'd shoot it twice, but they have some shots of the cantina coming up, and pretty interesting. Some new aliens in there, not so many of the older ones, but some throat singing. Definitely some weird in there if that's what you're after. So interesting stuff there. And then also another recent announcement while we're on Solo. There was the announcement that it will be premiering at the Cannes Film Festival, which is coming up here on the 8th of May. So we should get a pretty good idea of what we're up for coming up here soon. So exciting times.
Definitely. And the last bit of news for this week is Simon Pegg. He stated on the Happy Sad Confused podcast a little bit about what JJ may or may not have intended for Rey's lineage. And his direct quote is, "I know what JJ kind of intended, well, at least what was sort of being chucked around. I think that it's kind of been undone slightly by the last one. There was some talk about, kind of relevant lineage for her, but honestly, I don't know, and I don't know if anybody knows. We shall see." So what are your guys' thoughts on that statement?
Personally, I thought that was very bold of him to say. I think it kind of undermines Ryan just a tiny bit. If JJ felt that important about her lineage, he would have told Ryan, and I'm sure Ryan would have happily, followed his vision if it was something that they both thought was important to the film.
I think it's really interesting. We're getting some insight into how someone involved with the production process feels about the story taking this direction or that. Also, it kind of comments on where we are sort of at large, right? If they've left things sort of ambiguous up to this point, is it fair really to criticize anybody for sort of wondering still?
Oh, I feel the same as Liz. I thought it was kind of bold of him to say it and undermines Ryan. And I don't know, I felt like it wasn't a necessary comment and kind of riles up all the fanboys that are kind of mad at how the mystery box was answered. So
yeah, I kind of agree with that. It is interesting to kind of hear that from someone that was on set, but it kind of goes against what Daisy Ridley had said, where, they always that Ryan and JJ were kind of on the same wavelength. And to be honest with you, I genuinely believe they were. I'm sure Simon Pegg wasn't lying when he said what he said, but he was kind of vague on the fact that JJ did have something definite in mind. It could have just been tossing around because he's friends with JJ, right? He knows JJ. So I'm wondering if things were getting tossed around, but then when JJ actually sat down with Ryan and kind of started talking about the direction to kind of take this trilogy, maybe they both decided on the fact that they weren't actually gonna make Rey's parents anybody in particular. Obviously, there's still another movie, so we don't know what that holds. But I'm assuming that I'm personally hoping for the fact that nothing too drastic gets changed. A strange one.
I think Simon's still under the impression that Rey is Unkar's daughter.
Maybe. Yeah. maybe it's true. Maybe he knows more than we do. I don't know. If anyone does it,
I kind of wonder if he's gonna pop up in episode 9. If they revisit Jakku. So
I really hope he does, actually, because I think that would be. I mean,
I believe he died, didn't he? He died in the novel, and there was a deleted scene with him getting his arms ripped off.
Oh, he actually died.
Yeah.
I didn't know he actually died.
I don't know if that is canon, but it did happen in both the book and in a deleted scene. So I'm going to assume it.
If it happened, I mean, the novel has been retconned before, with the Poe and Rey that originally happened in the Force Awakens novel, but then Ryan chose to actually include it in the Last Jedi, which is obviously, it makes sense because it'd be weird if these two characters all of a sudden know each other and we've got no scene where they've kind of introduced themselves to each other. So I don't know, but then a character's death is kind of a big thing. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, could they retcon it? Yes. Will they?
Personally, I don't think they will because it was filmed. Yeah. So they might just not. They might not have had time to put it in or thought it unnecessary.
Wait, so did he actually die in the book?
He got his arms ripped off, I believe.
It's Star Wars. He probably has robot arms.
He might have lived. Who knows?
I mean, I guess we'll see. But I personally wouldn't object to seeing him again in episode 9. I think it'd be quite cool for Rey to confront him now that she's kind of like. I mean, it would almost be reminiscent of. I mean, not quite the same, but Luke confronting Jabba in Return of the Jedi, right? He's.
Or Anakin meeting Watto again.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that's probably probably a bit more of a.
Do that,
yeah, a bit more of a better comparison. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we don't know if Jakku will be featured again, but it's same director, and it could make sense for the story if
everyone always wants to go there.
Well, this is it. So
there's something special about Jakku for a battle to happen there.
Definitely something special. Yes. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see him again with a robotic arm. So moving on to the main segment of the podcast, the speculation segment, we're going to just do a little discussion about the Rebels finale. We're going to talk a little bit about Leia and her role in Episode 9 and some of the rumors around what they might be or might not be doing with her. And also just going to quickly go into the latest Vader comic, So, Liz, do you want to start us off on the Rebels finale?
Yes, of course. So I wanted to lead this discussion on the Rebels finale. I was so blown away with Filoni in this episode. He was absolutely amazing. There was the iffy parts with the Purgles, I believe it's called, the space whales. I just thought it was a weird thing to add, and I think Filoni did it out of spite, just to say, like, not everything is filler. But I do see their purpose, in taking them into light speed. Hyperspace. Sorry. And then Ahsoka at the end. Oh my gosh, I cried my eyes out. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment. Her and Sabine are gonna go off and try to find Ezra, and they may or may not be alive. I don't know if we'll see them again altogether. And everything that happened with Hera, her and her son, it's crazy. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, I want to disagree with you about the Purgles, first and foremost. I like the fact that they were introduced. I definitely think it was a little bit to do with spite, the fact that they were introduced in the finale, But I did kind of like the meaning behind them appearing because, right from the start of the show, we've been shown that Ezra has kind of had this connection with the wildlife. So I definitely think that was a really cool way of paying off that kind of idea.
I think so as well. I like the direction they're going with the the animal sort of connection, light side and whatnot. Obviously, all animals. I don't think all animals are like that, right? I'm not sure. It's a toss up, but it kind of gives some more some more heft to that side story that we got in The Last Jedi, where they're running into the Fathiers and such. The spiritual side, right, that connects the animals. So I'm here very much, guys, today to defend the Purgles. I'm here. I'm a Purgle activist. I'm here to say I like it. It's weird enough for me that it the one thing I did see, and this was I saw some comments going around. I did see, and this I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I guess we're kind of far enough. People have processed it and such, right? But they do bust through the windshield on that Star Destroyer,
right?
And then they jump into hyperspace. So hopefully they're somewhere where they aren't, in danger of that. But beyond that, no, I thought it was really neat. They showed up right when they were needed, and took them out. Got basically, it was kind of Deus Ex Machina, but what isn't with the Force, right?
Well, yeah, and I think it was kind of cool that it was something Thrawn just literally couldn't plan for, and that's kind of how you defeat an opponent like that literally plans for nearly every outcome, every logical outcome anyway. So that was kind of cool. I think, Ezra and Thrawn have been shown to. Well, Dave Filoni has actually confirmed that they are both alive. I think Ezra can use the Force maybe to kind of shield them from space and hyperspace. So hopefully they're all okay.
I love the creatures and alien stuff about Star Wars. I think it adds another dimension of mysticality, of whimsical. And I don't know, it's always cool to see what animals can do in that world, because there's so many different creatures. There's the lilacs, there's I don't know. I always love the animals that come out of Star Wars because it's not just humans warring with each other. It's other living things existing in the world with them that may or may not have these awesome powers and connection with the Force, So I like it.
So, Liz, at the end of the episode, we got a time jump, right? That was
we did.
Where did it go from, or where did it get to?
I know it was after the Battle of Endor. I'm not sure how far. I just remember, was it Sabine who was narrating, saying that they all survived. Hera fought with Rex. And it had a shot of Hera in the Ghost with her little boy, Jason.
Oh, and yeah, Rex.
Yes, Rex is alive.
Yes, and
It
then
hurt
Jason. Yeah, all
so
of it.
good.
Man, wow. Yeah, that last sequence was really neat, right? It jumped like 30 years forward or so.
I really want to see more of that in Star Wars. I know that's a little bit much, but I would absolutely love to see more time jumps because
Now, I'd heard they had planned for more seasons, right? I think somebody was mentioning that they'd planned for several more seasons, but Filoni was um, had to cut it a bit short, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
don't know if it was ever confirmed, but I know Freddie Prinze Jr., who plays Kanan, has talked a lot about it being. This was before we even had the announcement that it was going to be cancelled, and he said that they had planned for about 7 seasons. And I do have a little theory that it was cut short because they wanted to kind of focus on this new show. I think that's probably going to be a bit more relevant to Star Wars moving forward. Maybe something more to do with the new trilogy, because Dave Filoni at the end of no, it was so it was in between the gap of season 2 and 3. It was announced that he became the kind of overall overseer of all Lucasfilm animation, right? Instead of just focusing on Rebels, which was obviously, raised a few eyebrows because it's like,
just give him his own movie.
right, right. So I think it kind of it kind of led people to believe that there was going to be another show in the works, and obviously that looks like that's happening because Rebels got cut short. Well, not. I mean, I personally think it did get cut short because I feel like there was, I think it was a good show overall, and the finale was, excellent. But I think that some arcs maybe didn't get quite the payoff that I think was originally set up. Ezra's dark side kind of arc. I mean, there was definitely. I think it definitely had payoff in the finale, but leading up to that, it was kind of set up to be this big thing at the end of season 2, where he's kind of like looking into the holocron and a lot of hype around that. And then season 3, it was kind of dealt with in like one episode, and it just felt to me like, I don't know. It felt like there was going to be more to it, like the fact that Maul was introduced and Maul was going to be this kind of like dark side mentor for Ezra, and then them not really having that much to do with each other. So I don't know, but I do feel like Rebels was definitely cut short.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna have some of that feeling we had at the end of the Clone Wars, where we didn't get those finished arcs.
Right.
Be wondering, what happened between that jump to hyperspace and the war is over.
Yeah, although I do think that obviously because it could plan around its ending, I think we did get the ending we would have always got, or near enough, because it knew it was ending and it had time to wrap things up. And I think it's kind of interesting because we're definitely seeing this now with Rebels was almost like this spiritual successor to Clone Wars. It had a lot of the same characters showing up, and it's almost kind of its own universe in a way. Like it's got its own characters and places and things that keep showing up on, and it's this kind of own continuous story. So I think that it's, very, very fair to assume that the next animated show is going to be based on sequel trilogy era, either in between episodes 6 and 7 or possibly even 8 and 9. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? What would you like to see from the next animated show?
So, I know we don't really talk about leaks on this podcast, but there were a couple leaks about Disney or Lucasfilm having a trademark on the Resistance.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
just Resistance. And so that was, I think it was under like toys and shows and something, media, something along those lines. So I think maybe we're going to get a Resistance show. Another time jump, maybe showing a little bit of what Sabine is doing, maybe Ezra. I'm not so sure about Ahsoka, how much she'll be in that, because it is going to kind of bump into what we know with ST. So I'm not too sure how far they're going to dive into that, but Star Wars Resistance, I'm all for it. I really hope they bring the Ghost Crew back because I already fell in love with them. They're amazing.
Do you think that it's going to take place between 6 and 7 or 8 and 9?
Definitely 6 and 7.
I think it would be awesome if it was during the ST times. Maybe expand more on what Leia was doing. I don't know, I just like the diplomatic stuff she gets into, and I know that the Resistance is, in its way, kind of more humble and poor than the Rebels times, but I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to see an insight more on that instead of just the films.
So, side note, I just finished Lost Stars, and I noticed that they mentioned Lothal a couple of times. So, if you guys are reading canon books, I would definitely look out for planet names, and it's very interesting seeing them tie in the TV shows into these books and expanded universe.
Well, Carabast. But no, I think we definitely need to see something in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. It's time to dig in there. The end of the Rebels finale got us kind of there, right? That's some of the first media we've actually seen, moving media from after Return of the Jedi and in between The Force Awakens. The thing that I thought was really neat there at the nod off at the end was the nod to the Legends material with Jason Syndulla,
right,
getting introduced there. So I'm wondering, where that goes forward, because obviously we've got some other Force users running around, it looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And where's his story going to go? Is he going to be kind of like the Resistance's Kanan? I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to see. Yeah, I mean, the biggest question for me, at the end of the finale was definitely where are Thrawn and Ezra going, and kind of like where is that story going to go? Because they're two very different characters, and I'd love to see them kind of be forced together to work as a team. And I think, I don't know for certain, but the new Thrawn book is about, it's going to feature Thrawn and Vader and kind of like go into Thrawn's background with Anakin, apparently, because it was stated that they actually met each other in the first Thrawn book, and I think this is going to go into that a lot, and it's going to be Thrawn kind of working with a Jedi. So I'm wondering if there may be any kind of similarities between the new Thrawn book and whatever adventures Ezra and Thrawn are going to be getting up to when they get out of hyperspace. So that'll be super interesting to see. But as for the new animated show, I personally really do want to see something set after it, depending on how big the time skip is, obviously, because we don't know. But I would like to see something set after episode 8, this, because the Resistance or Rebellion or whatever it's called at the end of episode 8 is kind of on its back legs. It can't really do much at the moment. It's not got a lot of people, but Luke Skywalker kind of reignited this legend. So are we going to see the Resistance kind of form up to be this massive army that's going to be something to rival the First Order? That'd be really interesting to see that kind of spark up, and maybe it could be a bit more Clone Wars-esque, so we get to see a few different point of views. Probably not. It'll probably go with the more Rebels format, but we'll see. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I just think, is there much of a story to tell for the Resistance before Episode 7? Because obviously they were there, but they weren't really fighting the First Order, were they? I mean, before Episode 7? I don't know. Am I wrong on that?
Right. It's supposed to be a relative era of peace, as I understand it.
Yeah.
So, in respect to what you're saying, perhaps, Resistance, the title for a show would probably fit better, after 8, maybe. But that being said, we need to get something on Luke's traveling school here.
Oh, I mean,
we need something.
That would be my dream animated series if we could have a young Ben.
Get Mark to voice it.
Yeah.
That would break my heart. in so many ways.
Wow.
It would be. I mean,
Get all the actual actors in there.
Don't
yeah.
even.
I mean, if you get Adam
Can't
Driver and
handle.
it'll never happen. But if you get Adam Driver and Mark Hamill, it would just be something incredible to see a kind of Ben's tragic fall to the dark side. And if I had to get one show to be animated, it would definitely be that. But will we see that yet? I don't know. I think we will at some point. I don't know what form of media it would take, but I think animated show would be either a series of books, right? So not just like a one-off, because I think it would be really cool to kind of like have this ongoing kind of journey and development of Ben and Luke's characters, or like some form of animated show. I think it would be the best way to portray that. So, has anyone got any final thoughts on the Rebels finale?
I had one last note. We had Ezra and Thrawn launch out into the unknown regions, and we have Sabine and Ahsoka going after them, it looks like, at the end.
Right.
Now, the interesting thing, I guess, I mean, Sabine and Ahsoka aside, the interesting thing about them heading to the unknown regions is how it could possibly tie into the sequel trilogy. Now, there was, if you look at Thrawn's, I think you can go visit his Wikipedia page. I'm not sure how official it is with what's on there, but reference to the fact that Snoke is coming basically from the Outer Rim, or from the unknown regions as a navigator of sorts, and if these guys are to survive, that being Ezra and Thrawn in some way, shape, or form out there, then conceivably, in order to get back or to get around anywhere, really, they may encounter said navigators, perhaps.
Yeah.
So just a little thing that, something to look at or think about, perhaps.
So you think that the Thrawn, Ezra, Sabine, Ahsoka thing might tie into Snoke's origin? Maybe?
It's a small galaxy.
Yeah, very small galaxy. Very small.
Well, I'm actually reading Thrawn right now, and one of the first things that Thrawn tells the Emperor is, I want to help you take down the threats in the unknown regions that will take down the Empire. So, I don't know, for me, it kind of, foreshadows.
Yeah. Thrawn mentions he's aware of that threat, basically, that Palpatine seems to be planning for, and Snoke would conceivably be aware of as well. So I'm not sure if they all tie in together, but the pieces are all there.
Yeah,
for
I definitely
sure.
think it's reasonable to assume, because there's been so much mention of the unknown regions and this kind of this presence or this threat that's out there. Palpatine can sense it. Thrawn's talked about it. Now Thrawn and Ezra have kind of been taken into there. It's like, what is... Oh, and there's also a lot of references about it in the Aftermath books, right? So there's a lot of mentioning of this unknown regions and what's out there, this specific threat. It's really interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, without guessing or guessing too much, right? We have Star Wars has been picking up a lot more of the Legends material, it seems like, lately, peppering it in there. And there was one threat out there that was kind of the big threat that came out of nowhere. So I won't name it. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, but but that could be a possibility in the Star Wars future. So something to look at.
Something to think about. And lastly, on the Rebels finale, favorite moment, Liz.
Definitely when Ahsoka showed up. I lost it. I think Leia can tell you. I literally cried my eyes out.
Yeah, I was there. It was ugly crying. It was loud.
Yes. The show was done.
I wish I was there
She
for
was
that.
sobbing for a few minutes, and we were all asking her.
Yeah, she's such an important character to me. Like, I grew up with her. I own like every single piece of Ahsoka merchandise. She's just amazing. Like, she's such a strong female character, and it's just amazing. Like the way Filoni wrote her. Oh my gosh, I could go on, but
Yeah, it's great the evolution of that character.
It was nice that she wasn't, done as a character.
Yeah, we don't know where a story's going to go now. Fuel, what was your favorite part of the finale?
Purgles.
get out. Get
Purgles. I'm here for the Purgles, guys. I'm here to defend them. I'm here to no. I think that was probably it for me. I like that it brought an element of the Force that we haven't quite gotten too much into, this sort of animal mounts kind of side of stuff, I guess. But if you're into the MMO stuff, but being able to sort of as you said, bring in something that's outside of logic, sort of bring something mystical into it. So no, I think the Purgles was definitely my favorite part.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if this is considered part of the finale, but I mean, it was one of the part of the last episodes. But the world between worlds, especially with them, inserting all that audio from the films. Woo, chills! Really, really, really.
It was it was definitely something. I mean, that opens up a whole load of possibilities for future Star Wars stuff. That's obviously super exciting. But I think for me, it was actually the Palpatine scene in the finale, where I just love the kind of symbolism, I guess, because Dave Filoni's actually referenced him as the devil, the Star Wars devil, right? So he's kind of when Ezra first sees him, he's almost like angelic, like he's got this kind of this long white gown, and he's like this. Well, he's not young, but he's younger looking. And then obviously Ezra has this kind of temptation moment where he sees the possibility of going back to his parents. And I don't know, do you guys think that was a complete illusion, or do you think that Ezra could have actually gone back to see his parents there?
I think it's an illusion. We saw him use his little magic alchemy thing in World Between Worlds, so it was definitely magic.
Right. And the way they're just kind of like stood there, like looking at him, it's like, if they were actually his parents, they might be like a little bit concerned that they can see this swirling doorway in their living room or whatever. But for me, that was definitely, I think it showed a lot of strength from Ezra and kind of wrapped up his current arc very nicely. And I know a lot of Ezra was a character that I personally always quite liked his character, but I know he initially did get a lot of flack, much like Ahsoka did when she was first debuted. But I think that this over the course of the seasons, people have come around. So I don't think he's necessarily up there with Ahsoka, but time may change that. I personally really like the character. Really looking forward to see where he's going, and I can't wait to see where that's done. Fuel, you're leading the next topic. The possibility of Leia being recasted and what her role will be in Episode 9.
No, a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. Carrie Fisher, of course, sadly passed away last year, and with that come some changes to the Star Wars story moving forward. And so what I was hoping to discuss a little bit is where you guys might see her character, Leia Organa, going, moving forward into Episode 9, her relationship with Ben. As it's been discussed previously, Mark Hamill, I believe, was the one who made reference to the importance of her character, or the weight of importance that her character would have to Episode 9. So some rumors have gone around. We've heard things. We've heard of perhaps another actor stepping in, or perhaps them changing the story to, meet this tragic situation in some way, shape, or form. And I guess, obviously, most important is to make sure the character is honored in her importance to the universe itself, and is such an important character, one of the first strong female leads in Hollywood, and so with that said, one of the rumors coming up was Meryl Streep coming in and stepping in to take that. Now, I believe that wouldn't be a terrible idea to have an actor come in. I've seen Disney has done some wonderful things with the face changing technology recently. So I'm not entirely opposed to that. I think her character is very important to the story. And if they can figure out a way around that, I would not mind seeing an actor or actress fill in for her. And, just it's kind of a downer to talk about, really. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you want to re-record this sort of section at all or cut this, but this is, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, look, I am not against the principle of her being recasted if it was absolutely necessary for the script, if they literally couldn't work around that. If the film would take such a massive hit to its direction that there was nothing they could do. And I'm fine with the principle of it. I'm sure Carrie Fisher would not mind. I'm sure she'd like to see her character get the proper send-off she deserves. For me, it might just be kind of hard seeing another actor or another actress in the role, especially one such as Meryl Streep, where all you can kind of see is Meryl Streep. But like you said, they can do things with not just with CGI but with makeup as well. Personally, I think though, I mean, it has been confirmed that they have had to rewrite the script to deal with Carrie's absence. So I think any role that Carrie or that Leia was meant to actually have has been significantly changed and probably diminished. But I think that it is very possible we might see some Leia. I mean, it really depends how they choose to deal with the character. I mean, do they kill her off, or do they just kind of limit her screen time in a way? All I really want to see is some sort of resolution with her and Ben, because that's important. So even if we just see their two silhouettes embrace each other in some way of shape or form that shows they've reconciled and, moved on, then that'll be great for me. But, yeah.
So I would be okay if it was Meryl Streep, but not a full-on face, just maybe her back as she's dressed as Leia. So we get the idea. Personally, I think they should kill her off, because I think it is an important for Ben's arc moving forward. That needs to happen for him to realize he messed up, because in 8 we saw him not shoot her, and that was a huge moment for his character. It showed that he can be redeemed, he can change, and I feel like her death would just further drive him, no pun intended, to the light side, and maybe have him and Rey have a force bond while they're at like her grave or something like that, and him just be broken and not know what to do. I feel like that would be okay with me, and it would be very powerful. And I think Carrie would actually like that, saying that the character drove another character to further, how would I put it, expand the story or drive the story forward.
Right. Lai?
Oh, I feel the same way. I agree that her death would definitely be a catalyst for some super deep reflection for Kylo Ren / Ben Solo. And, he was, especially in the novel, she still believed in him and wanted him to come home. So I think, you know, I know that he's a villain and, he's part of the dark side, but, I guess sometimes we just need someone to believe in us sometimes. And I feel like Rey is also a part of that. So, yeah, I'm okay with her getting, I guess, killed off and being a catalyst for some really big change for Ben.
And I guess we're all fairly in the Ben redemption
Absolutely.
path, then, I would say. But for those that that feel like he's kind of gone or cut off at this point, then yeah, certainly it wouldn't bear much weight to the story. But I feel like, yeah, with the weight and the and what you guys mentioned, them having to adjust the storyline and such. I mean, it's looking like all signs are pointing to redemption for Ben Solo at this point.
Right, and I really like the idea that you stated, Liz, about the kind of force bond scene with Rey and Ben. Maybe because I think it'd be really nice for the Leia character in general to have kind of this on-screen send-off. A funeral, because I mean we didn't get one for Han, but it was in the novel. I think it'd be really nice to have this kind of like this on-screen send-off, and if Ben could kind of arrive there in a force bond, and maybe only Rey could see him, and she's kind of like, "What are you doing here?" But I mean, obviously it's understandable. It's his mother, So I think that could be like a really, really powerful scene, and like you said, really kind of push Ben in the hopefully right direction. Because he didn't choose to pull the trigger, and that was really important for his character arc in The Last Jedi. I just kind of wish there would have been a little bit more insight into how Ben felt about that, because it was never really explained if he thought that his mum had been killed in that explosion.
So what I will find interesting if they kill off Leia is how Poe is going to react also, because she's a surrogate mom to him. And I feel like Kylo and Poe are sort of surrogate brothers because, that's their mother figure. And it's going to be interesting to see how they react and what they reflect on and what their motivations are after they both lose her, because she's such a huge figure in their life. And so I look forward to that, because they're both the opposing leaders of the Resistance and the First Order. And, they've both seen Leia in her leadership position and see what she's capable of, and might have took some notes from her. So I'm excited to see that part.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, they are the two leaders of their respective sides, and they're both relatively young and inexperienced. I mean, Poe's kind of got some experience leading. I mean, that was kind of his arc in The Last Jedi. But Kylo, I can't imagine, has all that much, as was demonstrated in the Battle of Crate. So, I don't know, it's going to be really interesting, them kind of clashing and maybe even being brought together because of this loss of their, Poe's mother figure and Kylo's actual mother. Yeah.
Or I guess if we go back to the book and just kind of pull in one of the passages here, when he actually went to when he was going to go fire on the ship where Leia was, and then he decided not to shoot. Subsequently, one of his wingmates ended up firing, but right after that moment, and if I'm reading it here directly, if he had known, he could have stopped the torpedo, freezing it in space with a thought. But he had been surprised. Now he couldn't sense his mother. So I'm wondering if he was even aware as to whether or not Leia was alive. When they did their attack on Crate. Because he came in there pretty, guns blazing, and if he was willing to pull back on a shot earlier in the film, is he going all out like he is at that point, basically having undermined Snoke and kind of gone through his whole sort of shift up to that point, But yes, so I'm not sure if he goes in guns blazing though. Otherwise, if he had any impression that Leia was alive, maybe that changes the course of the film.
Definitely, and I wish the film had been a bit more explanatory about that, about how Kylo actually felt about his mother. Well, we don't even know if he does think that she's dead or not. You know, there's no scene after kind of saying, "Oh yeah, I can feel her," or "I can't sense her," or you know, all that we know that in that moment he can't sense her. So I don't know. I really hope that.
I mean, it may come as a shock to him that she's alive still in Episode 9, if that's the direction they end up going.
Right, which would kind of be cruel actually, because it's like a shock to him that she's alive, and then
he's been doing all this bad stuff still, and she's still alive.
That'd be crazy.
That would be very powerful, actually.
You know, the one I would really like to see a hologram of Leia talking to Ben, like her message to Ben. If they could do that, I think that would be, because I feel like they can definitely get away with having someone that doesn't look exactly like Carrie Fisher in a hologram, and as long as they get the voice right, you know, for the most part, I think people will buy it. Definitely more so than an actual CGI performance of that character, you know. So yeah, but it is interesting that you know, kind of kills a lot of the debate about whether, you know, Ben was happy when he saw those. I mean, the movie, in my opinion, pretty much states that he wasn't, but you know, it kind of shows that he would have stopped the bolts if he hadn't been so shocked. So that's really good to actually have that in writing.
Adding to your whole like hologram thing, and they could also make it so that she recorded something when he had turned, so it's even more disguised that it's not Carrie Fisher. They could get away with it a little bit easier, and kind of see how much Leia that she was heartbroken that he turned, and she tried to do everything she could to not have him go down that path. And maybe that might also, you know, change it.
Yeah, like a Galen Erso Rogue One scene or something like that.
Yes, exactly what I was thinking. Yes.
Oh, and have Ben like completely break down in tears. Like that would be that would be so brilliant. I'd love that so much. Well, there was actually that thing in Bloodline when I don't know. I can't really see him getting too much into it in the movies, because the whole kind of Bloodline reveal hasn't been stated. But in my mind, it was a very big reveal, or a very big part of why Ben turned. The reveal when he finds out that Vader is actually his grandfather and no one's told him, and he kind of finds out on the news, which isn't the best way to find out that you know, Vader's your grandfather. And then Leia actually tries to send him a message saying that, you know, she's sorry and she wanted to tell him when the time was right, and she's really sorry that he's found out this way, but she doesn't know whether he's going to get it or that he received it. So it'd be kind of cool if we saw that message, or maybe something in a very similar vein to that.
What if he didn't see it and it just like hurt him more because he thought that his mom just didn't care, and when he sees it he's like, oh my gosh, everything I did was for nothing.
Right. Well, I like to think that the whole Vader reveal for Ben, and then the night that Luke went to visit him in the temple, I like to think that was all in very quick succession, like maybe over the space of like a week. So maybe the whole Luke temple massacre kind of happened before that message could even reach him, and then therefore he would never have received it. So, I mean, the temple was burned, so whatever device they used for getting messages, maybe that was destroyed as well. And you know, I don't know, but it would. It's not too hard to assume that that's what happened. And then maybe he could actually see that. You know, I don't know. Maybe R2 could play him that message or something. I don't know, but that would be really cool to see.
I'm pretty sure they have like we do an email system, something like that, where it could save it even though it's not on like the exact device, like or computer or anything like that. It's like an online thing.
The Star Cloud.
Yeah.
HoloNet.
Oh, there you go.
HoloNet, yeah.
There you go. HoloNet is canon now, actually.
There's already a name for it. But yeah, so I think that that would be a very kind of respectful way to kind of close off her arc, where it's not having anyone necessarily play the living, breathing Carrie or Leia.
Yeah, and It's good because it doesn't. It makes it so the character doesn't have to, do much more, as it were, action wise. In regards to the story, the heavy lifting is done already.
Yeah, exactly. But the one thing that does kind of sadden me is we got a lot of it in the novel, which is about how kind of like Ben's relationship with his parents and kind of his home life. And, he kind of heard conversations about them referring to, well, not actually referring to him as a monster, but kind of that's how he felt he was being talked about. We got so much of that in the novel. We learned about his breakdowns and all these things that made sense why he actually got sent to Luke's academy in the first place. And I think that I like to believe that the reason why we haven't got that much in the film of The Last Jedi was because they were saving it for episode 9, because it was going to be the Leia and Ben movie, So, yeah, I mean, I still think we will get some of it in the movie, hopefully, because I really do think that the general audience isn't really that much aware about the tragedy of Ben's fall and what kind of drove him to that point. So, I don't know.
And also, they're going to have some of young Ben Solo's life in The Last Shot, the new Han Solo and Lando book. So we're going to see a little bit of baby Ben, see what he's like. But I think it's very, very young Ben, not like teenager Ben.
Yeah, they've been very deliberate about showing Ben's kind of teenage years.
How young are we talking here? Like Anakin's age in The Phantom Menace?
I think younger, to be honest. I'm not exactly sure the timeline, but from what I've seen, it's going to be a very young baby Ben.
So basically repairing the Falcon by himself and stuff, regular young Skywalker business.
Oh,
what a Mary Sue. But yeah, well, I don't know. It's really interesting that they keep showing us these kind of more innocent portrayals of Ben Solo. It's like gearing everyone up for the redemption, hopefully. Kind of emphasizing the fact that he is human, and humans make mistakes and make wrong decisions. And
what do you know?
So I don't know. But
not in Star Wars, they don't.
No, not in Star Wars. You get your one chance of redemption, and that's it. You don't get any more. That's it.
Yeah, Darth Maul.
Yeah, one shot of redemption. That's all you get. So, yeah, it is interesting. I just hope that they can kind of tie the Ben and Leia stuff together in a satisfying way, even though that Carrie Fisher's not going to be there for it. It breaks my heart that we're not going to get a scene between Carrie and Adam Driver, though, because that would have been something special, I think. But,
Yeah, I agree. That would have been something special. But
I wanted to say, because they are on the Millennium Falcon when we leave them, I hope perhaps that maybe Leia or Rey happens upon a family, picture or hologram or whatever of Leia and Adam and Han. Sorry, yeah, and
yeah,
like old film movies.
That is a good way, yeah.
So because they did live, the Millennium Falcon kind of was like their second home, and I couldn't imagine that there isn't family remnants on that ship.
Han keeps the old family photos in the smuggling compartment.
Yes, in the cargo
where no one
bays.
can find them. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I'm just thinking, because Unkar Plutt did have the Falcon, so it'd be kind of weird if he kept these family photographs. But yeah, they were kind of hidden away. I don't know.
Yeah, they are probably hidden away. Sounds pretty plausible.
I think that would be really nice, though. I think.
But yeah, that's sort of stuff to think about as we move forward to episode 9. I'm sure we'll get a lot more media coming out here soon that'll elaborate on their relationships, and maybe that'll kind of give us a better idea of where we're going. So I think that moves us on to one of our final topics here in the speculation section, which is the Vader comic.
So we're going to talk about the issue number 13, and I just wanted to give a quick summarization of it because action-packed issue. So first, Vader has another dream about the Mustafar battle with Obi-Wan, but he's Vader and not Anakin. The Emperor commands Darth Vader to go to planet Mon Cala to find out who is advising their leadership because the negotiating tactics are similar to Jedi. Tarkin is discussing possible attack strategies with his crew, but he also understands that the value of the planet is high and wants to avoid destroying the planet, actually. Ambassador Telvar, on behalf of the New Republic and Empire, is unsuccessful in convincing King Lichar to accept a trade proposal. Darth Vader and the Inquisitors land on planet Mon Cala. The ambassador ship is shot down. Tarkin's crew detects the attack and readies to send down the TIE fighters and the Imperial fleet. And last but not least, there's a mysterious figure in a cave that is acknowledged as Master Jedi, who expected the presence of Vader and the Inquisitors, and the mysterious figure also knows that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker. So I find this really interesting, especially the last part, because of, Order 66 and the history and death of the Jedi Order. So I just want to pass it back to you guys, and who do you guys think this Master Jedi is?
Mace Windu.
No.
I don't know. Well,
Didn't see him die on screen.
this is the thing. I mean, we've been going through all these possible Jedi it could be that would actually have a decent payoff, and as much as I hate to say it, and I'm probably wrong. In fact, I'm almost definitely wrong, but I just think that for me, Mace Windu would probably be one of the only choices it could be, for several reasons. The first being that he calls him Skywalker, and I'm pretty sure that Mace Windu rarely referred to him as Anakin, if I'm right about that. Am I?
Yes.
You are correct.
Right. He obviously senses Anakin's presence through the Force, which is interesting. It shows that they were familiar with each other. He's a Master Jedi, so that kind of, he must have been a Jedi Master, and they've chose to conceal his identity, so it would lead us to believe that it's somebody that we do know. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think?
I'm not sure if it's Mace Windu, but also I'd like to counter-argue that just because someone says Master Jedi doesn't mean they're a Jedi Master. It could be just someone who is not Force sensitive or doesn't know anything about the Force, and they just know they're a Jedi. So obviously, out of respect, they call him Master Jedi. Also, droids are known to call Jedi doesn't matter what rank, Master Jedi. So, well, I have no clue.
Whoever it is, they know it's not. It's not, they know Vader's showing up and it's Skywalker. I mean, well, either that or they just think it's Skywalker on, having a bad day, I guess. But besides that, they've run into Inquisitors. So, the list starts to get really short. And, I mean, they have brought in Jedi sort of out of left field. I'm not sure anybody saw just the new popping into a Darth Vader comic. But it is certainly interesting, even just in the thought that they've dealt with Inquisitors at all, being that, the Inquisitors are comprised of ex-Jedi, as it were, people from that era who were at the Academy, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it could be anybody. It could be somebody who knows of those folks that turned to the Inquisitors as well. My money's on Eathcoth.
Eathcoth. Maybe. What you be right? Mind you, doesn't he have head spikes?
Yeah, you've got me there. The person we're looking at here does have a flat head. I'm not sure if that has any. I'm just speculating here.
The way it falls doesn't mean anything.
Is it the rendering or is it on purpose? We'll never know.
Is it shoulder tails?
Oh no, Shakti.
Is it Ahsoka?
No.
No, it's not.
Oh, I also,
Never.
oh, sorry guys, but I also forgot to mention that Raditz and Akbar are actually in this issue too. So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting seeing them popping up as advisors to, and military leaders to King Lichar. So I thought
And
that was
King
pretty cool.
Lichar was in the Clone Wars, right? He was the young king. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Ooh,
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you are right.
So it's a Clone Wars throwback, basically. So all the more reason for it to be Mace Windu. No, I'm joking.
What did you guys think about Vader's meditation dream about Mustafar and just replaying that battle in his mind again? You know, with Obi-Wan.
Don't let your memes be dreams, or the other way around. No, it was it was an interesting throwback there. Getting to see that scene replay, we've seen it countless times, revisited it, right? But seeing him as Vader instead of Anakin definitely changes it a bit. And in fact, it's Obi-Wan who does the burning in this throwback. So I think this really, it seems to be the pivotal moment, obviously, right, of Anakin's life and transition into Darth Vader. But these comics are really showing a lot, another side of Vader, and perhaps showing his obsessiveness with this moment and the direction it sort of made his life take from there.
Yeah, well, I think that there is this kind of part of him that was really let down by Obi-Wan, possibly when he chose to kind of let him burn instead of, like, you know, helping him or even like finishing him off. You know, I think there's and I think there is a massive resentment towards him because of that. Even if he might never admit it to himself, it really, I think it really is the point where Anakin actually became Vader. You know, forget the whole slaughtering of younglings and all that. You know, I mean, he did some pretty bad stuff before that, but I think that was the point where the last of, well, I mean, obviously Anakin was still there, you know, around there somewhere, but I think that's the point where he really did choose to give up. So yeah, it's really interesting for me that they keep revisiting that scene.
Yeah, I you know, after reading these comics and sort of seeing this different side of Vader, and you know how for a while he's kind of the Emperor's errand boy instead of this super imposing. I mean, he was imposing, of course, but the fact that, you know, he was being sent out on these small missions by the Emperor to kind of stomp out any, you know, remnants of the past. I find it really interesting, and I do find it interesting that he does reminisce about his old life, and just even with reading Lords of the Sith, it's heartbreaking, you know, because he does think about Padme and he does think about Obi-Wan.
You could see it with his interaction with Jocasta Nu. He had he didn't want to kill her outright. I mean, going back to the comic, I mean, I don't know if he saw sort of the benefit in having that knowledge, but yeah, just wiping it. It's almost as if he's being sent to erase any sort of remnant of his own past, as it were.
And even going before that, I mean, not before that, after that, a couple issues later, he spares a bounty hunter family, you know? And it's like, that's also a big thing too. He doesn't want to be this bad guy, but he knows he has to. He's too far in. But still, he wanted to spare Jocasta, and he spared those other people. But then again, Jocasta is just kind of done now. But, you know, she did it to herself.
Right. I think very much it shows. I mean, we meet Darth Vader as an older man in the, you know, the OT, but I think it's always interesting that we kind of see Anakin beneath the suit, you know, in these comics and this supplemental, you know, novels. And I don't know, again, it just breaks my heart to know that he was still thinking about his old life, and there was still conflict within him, you know.
Right, and it's really because, you know, when you see Vader in the suit, you automatically think of this, you know, 40-year-old man, but you've got to remember that in these comics, he's what, 23? Like, he's still he's a young man essentially. So his thoughts and cynicism is going to be kind of different. So there will be kind of this kind of spark that's still there. This kind of remnants of Anakin, and that's kind of still clinging on almost. And I think that a big arc of his journey, I think, in this comic series will be kind of showing that starts to fade away almost. I mean, it never truly fades away. You know, no one's ever truly gone, as Luke Skywalker so well put in The Last Jedi. But I think that that is his arc going forward, in my opinion, until Luke kind of reignites the hope, I guess, that he can change back. And it's kind of maybe a good parallel towards the sequel trilogy, because, you know, Vader kind of messed up his body and completely destroyed everything, whereas Ben kind of is in a different position where, you know, he's still young, he's still got his body intact, he's still got people willing to care for him, maybe. He's got something to go back for, so, you know, he's still got the chance. So I don't know. Maybe they're setting up a nice parallel there. I don't know.
Yeah, right. That fight with Obi-Wan was the day that nobody was calling Anakin's cell phone anymore.
Yes.
That's the day he had to change his contact list. So I think, yeah, for him it was very much that sense of, all right, well, even if I do feel this, you know, change, what am I going back to? What is there for me to change to, or reason for, right? And you know, as he comes to find that he does have children, and he does have sort of this lineage heir, as it were, whatever. Maybe that's part of, you know, what sort of brings him back. It's like, hey, maybe I do have some contacts I can throw in the old hollow phone.
Definitely. You know, he has a reason to come back.
It's not a part of this issue, and it might be part of the 2015 comics, actually, but one of my favorite drawings that had no dialogue was Vader and Luke reaching out to each other across the stars, and just Vader dreaming of that,
Right.
being with his son again. Just really heartbreaking and sad, but it reminds you that, you know, Vader is still a man beneath the suit and still has these desires to have a family or have his children. And I always think about what if the Jedi didn't hide his children from him, what would have happened, you know?
Yeah, that is an interesting thing to theorize.
Maybe later on we can go more in depth about this.
Definitely, yeah.
It's definitely interesting.
Yeah, sorry, I just super love Vader, so I have so many thoughts and feelings about him.
Who doesn't love Vader, you know? So lastly, but not leastly, final predictions about the hooded figure in Vader.
Come on, let's all say it together.
No.
1, 2, 3. Mace Windu.
I don't know. I would honestly be shocked if it was, but there are certain signs. I don't even want it to be at this point. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some cool things that could be done. It's just, it'd be weird bringing him back in a comic to probably kill him off. I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, if it is Mace Windu, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. It's probably not.
Sam, you're the one speaking it into existence, so you better be able to swallow that pill.
I swear to God, I'm probably gonna get so much hate for even suggesting.
Wasn't it like it was like a month or two ago that wasn't it Sam Jackson was talking about reprising his role and his desire to come back? Maybe they mentioned that he was going to be in a comic.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. I just think it was definitely a big part of Vader's past, you know, Mace Windu, they never really got on. So, I don't know. We'll see. It's probably not. It's probably some really obsolete Jedi that's just going to be like, it's like, oh, it's me.
What if it's that Jedi, gosh, I forgot his name, the one with the buns in the beginning. What if it's him? I don't know if he was definitely dead when he was drowned in that water, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's Like, I mean, I don't know. I haven't actually read that comic, but I don't know if how conclusive it was if he died or not. But it'd be interesting if they did bring him back. You know.
Well, we should know soon. I believe the next installation releases in the next few days or so. So we should get an answer pretty soon.
Oh, cool. In fact, it might even be out by the time this podcast gets released. So, what date does it come out?
The 11th, if I'm not mistaken, of April.
Which is
4 days from now.
Which is okay. So this podcast should come out just
the day before, actually.
The day before.
Come out the day
All right.
before.
So yeah, it's even more topical. I don't know. That wraps up the speculation segment for today. The last segment we'll be getting onto today in this podcast is the community segment. We'd normally be answering your questions that you post to us about Star Wars, but unfortunately we don't have any to answer this podcast as no one's asked us any. So that's great. But if you want to ask us a question, go to our subreddit at Kessel Fun or to our Twitter at Kessel Fun, and you can ask us any Star Wars related question there, and we'll be sure to answer it on the podcast as long as it's suitable. We're also running a Speculator of the Month contest, and that is given to a speculator who we feel is deserving of that role by either posting a great speculation topic on the Star Wars Speculation subreddit or being an upstanding member of the community. They will be rewarded with 1 month's subscription to Reddit Gold and also a custom flair Star Wars Speculator of the Month that they can wear around the subreddit with pride. If you have a suggestion for a speculator you'd like to see win this award, head on over to our subreddit and you can post in the relevant thread and give us suggestions. If you notice anyone that fits the criteria. Also, if you want us to discuss a certain theory, you can suggest that also in our subreddit, and we'll think about discussing that on the podcast in future. With that said, Liz, if you'd like to give our coordinates to the audience.
I'd love to. If you'd like to find us in a galaxy far, far away, you can follow us on our Kessel Fun on the subreddit, at Kessel Fun on Twitter, and KesselFunPodcast on YouTube, as well as our SoundCloud link, soundcloud.com/KesselFunPodcast. See you around, kid.